If you're caring for a loved one, here's a question for you. How can love last when memories start to fade? Welcome to This Is Getting Old, Moving Towards an Age-Friendly World. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Batchelor, and today I'm joined by one of my favorite care pairs, and we're talking about a topic that's both emotional and inspiring. I'm joined by Dangle Dot, and we're going to explore how little moments like a smile, a hug, or even a favorite song can really bring connection when words are hard to find. We're also going to talk about how love shapes caregiving by helping people show patience, kindness, and understanding. Because as relationships change with dementia, we still need to look for ways to stay close, like using touch or finding joy in shared experiences. And we're also going to talk about how to adapt love languages, like showing affection through music, art, or acts of service. So this episode is all about finding hope and love in life's toughest moments. So stick around because you won't want to miss it. So the reason I wanted to focus on this topic today is a two-part series that we're going to be posting in February. And while love is ideally a guiding principle when it comes to caring for a person living with dementia, it does come with its own unique challenges, both for that person, for us as caregivers, family, and friends. But I'm joined today by Dangle and Dot, who've been on the podcast before, and we are talking about rediscovering love when words fail. So welcome, Dangle and Dot.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, we're so happy to be here. We are glad to be here today with you.
And so before we get started, for those who haven't met you, maybe you guys can just briefly introduce yourselves and then we'll dive in to our topic.
Okay, I'm Nancy Nelson, also known as Dangle of Dangle and Dot. I was diagnosed in 2013 with early onset Alzheimer's and then re-diagnosed in 2017 with mild cognitive impairment. And ever since I've been playing with new ideas, reimagining dementia. And my partner in crime is...
Yes, I'm Kat Hartley, and also known as Dot. And I have been in the dementia space my whole life, losing 7 family members in each decade. Along the way, and I just was a witness to a lot of challenges that caregivers and families face, and dedicated my professional career to trying to change the narrative. But now, co-founder of Dangle and Dot, we're pairing up as a care pair to bring a little more positivity and how we can recreate our lives with dementia, a little more purpose and joy. And we want to share our message.
Friendship and partnership.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, very good. Well, I'm so excited that you guys are here. And again, this is a 2-part episode. And this week, we're going to be talking about love from the perspective of how it changes between couples as well as within families. And then in next week's episode, we're going to be talking about this from the perspective of a caregiver dating. And how do you have a personal life as well as a person living with dementia on the dating scene, and the importance, as well as the importance of loving yourself. So that we believe that love is a guiding principle in dementia care, and it really should shape our approach when it comes to caregiving, from having patience, being empathetic, and having unconditional love. So I guess my first question for you ladies is, how can love persist when memories fail?
Well, as humans, actually, love is at the core of relationships. And certainly dementia can challenge all relationships, right? Because there's new dynamics taking place when we're in this space of caring for someone, all the changes. So if we can find ways to cultivate that loving part of us amidst a lot of change, it's sort of like your goal, I would say, if dementia comes to your life, right? How to be loving to yourself and to your loved one.
Of course, I'm coming from a different perspective. I'm coming from more age. I know you didn't notice that. I'm coming from more age. And when I first read this question, I thought, one of the things that is happening to me along my journey is that I can go look for something and can't find it, can't see it on the shelf, It's not there. Did someone take it? Who took it? Right? That kind of a deal. I think that when we talk about love and things fading away from us, being taken away from us, I think it's a not knowing. I think we don't know the answer maybe to that question, because I will swear to you times, it's right there. It was right there. And I go back and it wasn't, right? Or I go back and say, I can't find it there. Can you help me? And their answer is here. So, love is evasive even on a good day, but I think when your memory starts fading, I think it's a shoot. It's just could be, might not be. And I don't think it's anybody's fault, and I don't think they do it on purpose.
And I would say that we have had someone join us. Tom's here. And actually, Tom is a really good example of someone who pretty consistently is able, he's also a caregiver, and pretty consistently demonstrates love in his caregiving approach. So I'm glad that he's here to join us, and you're welcome to chime in with the chat if you have any questions or any contributions to the conversation today. But I think that love is a feeling. And I know as I watched my grandmother, she never really went past moderate stage Alzheimer's disease, but it was very evident in everything that she did that love really did remain in everything that she did. And that was also kind of a core part of her being. She would always tell you that, that she loved you. And then when watching my mom interact with her, that the love always just kind of shone through, whether it was, a smile or a hug. She would always tell the story about, she only had a fourth grade education. So she would tell me like daily that she left the country to come visit me when I was born. But what she did is she left North Carolina and went to Virginia. She did live in the country. She went to the city, but I was like, you didn't really go out of the country, but that was like a core part of whenever she saw me, she always told the story about coming to see me, when I was born. And that in her way was her way of,
Right.
demonstrating love to us. And I think that there are other ways, which actually leads into the next question. How do you think love shapes our approach as caregivers?
Mhm.
Or ideally it would, because I know that this is harder for some people than other people.
It is. Yeah, so that core value of patience, whether any caregiver realizes it or not, that is the core value that you're learning to cultivate in your relationship. And every caregiver has experienced non-patience, I promise, out of frustration, and then it turns into guilt and shame. We can go down that, powerful emotional road path. But every day a caregiver gets back up and tries again. And then learning how to cultivate that patience with your loved one and then with yourself, right? It's always this reciprocal idea of giving. And that's the way we like to focus on a partnership. My loved one is teaching me new ways to interact. My loved one is teaching me new things maybe I've never heard before. My loved one is teaching me new ways to be patient, which I can carry out within the rest of my day, other places. So that patience part is a loving thing, and it's the most challenged thing, I think, sometimes in dementia caregiving, if you will. And so finding those ways we can find patience with ourselves and bestow it on somebody who's lost something and determine that it's not there, right? And agree with them. Yes, and let's go look for it.
I think it's so important at this time to not try to prove someone wrong. And I know even the short time that I've been a caregiver for my daughter because of a traumatic brain injury, it put me in a position to be fortunate enough to see both sides of the caregiving picture and how angry I got when she got upset or angry or said something that I'd never heard out of her mouth before. I think if we could look at this, which is the way that Kat and I look at where we are in the dementia world, right? And how we approach it, is that we do it, we always do it with wanting the kindness and the love that we have for the person to show through. And you can't always do that. But there is a feeling, I think, and you probably know better than me, there's a feeling that comes. I know that you're a kind person. I know that you approach things as good as you can. People that know Kat know that, right? It's this side that sometimes speaks way out, right? And can't help it. So they're ugly and not nice. They don't mean to be that way. They don't.
I think that's the important part.
We can understand that.
Yeah, I think that's the important part as a caregiver to realize, is that the person experiencing brain failure or traumatic brain injury, they are doing the best that they can, and
Yes.
not take it personal. And I think
Right.
that's one of the things that people, can struggle with. And then, like you said, not getting into the argument. Like if that's supposed to be there on that shelf and it's not, well then, how can I help you solve this problem? Or, well, maybe we can't find it right now. So how do we redirect the person's attention, while we can continue to look for it later, but, it kind of is what it is, and not really getting into this argument where we're setting ourselves up to get into kind of a tussle.
So do you think when I say early diagnosis, I was diagnosed very, very early. So you do learn how to approach one another through time. I mean, we're certainly better at the 12-year mark than we were at the first year mark, right? And so it's maybe getting to people earlier so that we can talk to them about, hey, there's two ways to look at this, and we both need to learn better talking skills, conversational skills.
Right. And I think the other side of that is when the talking gets to a point where it either the words don't make sense, or you can no longer have like a reciprocal conversation. There's still interaction, and maybe the other person, when they're talking, their words don't make sense, but they're still happy, and they're happy in the moment, to just realize that that's still a moment of connection. And to continue to smile, and you can give them a hug, looking for things that are familiar, and that even touch can convey
A
love.
lot.
And
Yeah.
tone of voice.
Right. And I care for my mom right now, who's at the end of life, and we're on hospice here at my house, and her cognitive abilities have just kind of rapidly declined in the last few months. So just learning how to express love or approach her actually with softer body language, I would call it, from myself. More just as is, this is where we are, we're going to do this the best we can kind of approach when I interact with her. And sometimes that means I need a caregiver to come in when my approach becomes frustrated and in a hurry, right? Because I feel like I have so many other things to have to do. So that body language part, I've learned to, approach my mom with relax my stomach, relax my body, just bring a softer voice, which is difficult. She's hard of hearing. So there's this difference between yelling and so she can hear me. But it's the energy, I would say, the energy of the exchange when I'm caring for her. Is it loving and kind and compassionate, or is it frustration? Is it, resentment even some days? And when I'm there, I know it's time for cat self-love, right?
Right.
Cat's got to go do something else when can't do it anymore.
Yeah. And so two things there. One thing, a lot of older adults do have hearing loss. And instead of yelling, especially if you're female, a lot of older adults lose high frequency hearing loss, which means that children's voices, female voices, are harder to hear. So it's actually, instead of getting louder, you need to actually lower your voice and slow down, and then there's a better chance that they're going to understand you, as well as using gestures. Using your nonverbal behavior does become much more important. And like you said, they do pick up on your energy, and they are going to mirror, like, whatever you bring to the table, they're going to bring it too.
100%. I witness it all the time.
Right. And I think another way to demonstrate love is to recognize when you need help. And a lot of people feel like, if I need help, that I'm failing. And it's like, actually, the greatest gift you can give someone is to recognize that you're at the end of your rope, or that your approach isn't working. And if you're in a facility, it's easy enough to grab a staff member, to say, like, hey, they're not getting along with me today for whatever reason. Can you go in and try? And then that person can get them to do everything. But having a caregiver, someone else to give you respite, just because that little shift can make a big difference. So I think those are important things to remember, and to view getting help as an act of love, and not as a
Failure.
failure. Right.
Yes.
It's not a failure.
Yeah, or I'm letting somebody down, right? No.
And I think in watching Kat go through this, what I have learned is the willingness of a care partner, the willingness of them not taking everything as a personal affront. And, your pride is bruised. The person that you love is a stranger standing before you, acting like they've never acted before. All of those things come up. And I haven't a day go by that when we have this conversation, that Kat doesn't say, well, I kind of had to back up, and get, put myself back in a package and remember, the opportunity that I'm having here to understand my mom. And it's taking nothing away from us, but we've put so much into it. It's kind of hard sometimes to ask for help. And we look at it maybe as a failure, not being up to the task. And it doesn't really have anything to do with that. It has everything to do with having to learn, to relearn.
Right. Well, and it's not like there's a playbook.
No, because everybody's different for all reasons.
Right. And the nature of the relationship was this.
That's changed.
Spouses that have been together and been acting a certain way for 50 years, right? Or in my situation, I care for a brother and a mom. Both of these relationships are very different, and bring out different parts, or is it a family member or a younger person it's just been delivered to them. You're the only person that can care for them right now. And, that pulls up this whole other dynamic of, oh, what? I love grandma, but, kind of thing. So I don't know the natures of the relationships. But I think this is where we can evolve our own selves. When you step into the caregiving role, you can unlearn so much about yourself if you're open to it. You can learn depths of your love that you didn't know existed, that make you get up at 3 a.m. and, okay, we're going to do this. And that self-love is tremendous.
Yes. Yeah. Taking time for yourself is not selfish.
Yeah. And so Tom added in the chat, it says, to love someone long-term is to attend 1,000 funerals of the people they used to be. I think and then he said that, that resonated with him in a big way, because you have to let go of who that person was before, and really just accept them in the moment. And it can be a challenge to practice, but I do think that is the biggest thing, is people with memory loss don't have a past or a future. They live in the present moment. And as for caregivers, it's hard, or care partners, or family, friends. It's hard for some people to just accept the person in the present moment and love them for who they are in that moment. Yeah. So that can,
That's the key.
That's the key.
That is the key.
which leads to the next question is, how can relationships survive the challenges of memory loss?
Yeah. Allowing, I love the word allow in dementia care, all the way around, because we're allowing what is unfolding. You have to allow those hard emotions of loss, those hard emotions of frustration, allow them to come up. But we need to direct them into something
And not shove them down.
Transmute them, if you will, into better ways to care. And it is trying to work your way to that acceptance. Even the person noticing the changes, right? That you have to accept some level of, I'm different today than I was 20 years ago.
If you can package that. So. See, you don't, how do we really know? I'm pretty vocal about how I've been feeling on my way this last 12 years. But how do we really know what our loved one is thinking, the person in my position? We don't really know. And so all we can do from the side of a caregiver is to be willing to learn about the new person.
Yeah. And getting some help, I think,
yes, and knowing that help
can help in a positive way, right? To talk about these relationship changes.
What you're doing is so important, Melissa, so important, because hopefully there are people that are going to see this that say, oh my gosh, I really don't have to do everything. Doesn't make me love them or show that I look like I love them less, right?
Yeah. And when your work too helps people, and I think this is so key for people new to Alzheimer's or dementias, like for the first time, have never been with someone who's experiencing these changes, to understand what physically is happening in the brain that's creating these changes. And then from a place of logic or a place of better understanding of, what's creating the new behavior? What is creating this new pattern of being? I have found that to be so helpful into knowing how to relate to it, right? This part of the brain isn't working. This part of the brain is doing something a little different.
I think you're correct, really correct on that. I think that it is up to the caregiver, unfortunately, to learn about the brain and to really totally understand. And by my taking care of my daughter, I understood for the first time, really, how crazy it is to be standing there, giving up your life and your time and your energy, and then have somebody say something that is disrespectful or disavow everything that I'm doing and why I'm doing it is hard. You don't have enough sleep. You don't have enough attention. You haven't had your hair done, your nails done. I mean, it's just, we both from both sides, but it takes more from the caregiver side than it does from the person living with the diagnosis. And that's why I say early diagnosis is a good thing, because it helps us learn to talk to one another. So we will be better. Now, she doesn't happen to be my care partner, but I would be very fortunate to have one like her. I have 2 daughters that are wonderful, but I'm just saying, she's done a lot of work over and above, right? In order to be who she is as a caregiver. And I say all the time, thank you. I mean, thank you. And what you're doing, thank you, because people have to understand that coming from this side, we can't always do what we might have done, concede when we might have conceded, not be belligerent, not say things unkind. We're not doing that because we want to. There's something amiss up here.
Right. And the way I frame that is anybody with, memory loss, traumatic brain injury, a dementia, they are experiencing brain failure. And as caregivers, we have to help what I call like the great brain, because Alzheimer's disease takes a great brain, which is plump and juicy, and the messages can get back and forth, and basically turns it into a raisin, which has, it's dried and shriveled and the messages can't get back and forth.
Before.
So
That's a really good, yeah.
it works for Alzheimer's.
Yeah, sure
Yes.
does.
So that means just like as a parent with a toddler, you're put into the position of being the sole problem solver, because that's one of the things that these diseases take away from the other person. And instead of framing it as you're giving up your life for this person, I think that we need to think about it in a way of how can I continue to have my life as a care partner, but I don't have to give up everything if I can find the resources and the support that I need in order to make sure this person's taken care of, but still have, my life. And I think that really just means that you have to look in your community, look in your own social support network. If you don't have a support network or a care team, you need to create one because this is not something that you should go alone. We don't ask parents to raise children. We say it takes a village. And so I don't understand why society thinks that because we're now adults and this is an older adult, it's my parent, that I should do it alone.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest shift that I think people have to think through and to think about, really.
Mhm.
So that our next question for this episode is, how can love languages be adapted? We've heard the love languages of touch, service, gifts. I don't know them all. Hopefully they can Google love languages.
I think another one is, kind words.
Affirmation.
Tone of voice, right?
Well,
Sets
yeah,
the
words
stage.
of,
Yeah.
and those do seem to change as like verbal skills may evolve. I have found that physical touch is more, as my mom declines, just now a better love language to her, a soft touch. There's still nice words of affirmation, still back and forth, even if they're written. I had written this note, Katura loves you. That's my formal name. Katura loves you, and has stayed by her bed like every day for her to see it. So I was tapping into her always leaving us notes of usually things to do. But, right. But like, so notes were a big thing to her in her earlier years. So I keep leaving notes for her to kind of ponder when she comes across them. So that's a sort of a language that we're practicing right now.
Now, so because that's a long ago,
but I'm tapping into what I know about her long ago. What techniques did she use? And so that, I think that's where the reward of caregiving can come, when you have like, oh,
that worked.
Oh, if I remember that she liked this, this, and this, and then I kind of try to recreate some version of that, I don't know, stimulates some recognition.
It really does bring to light how we rush through life.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And have people in our life that we really care about and love and whatever. And it sort of forces us to slow down and to look at this person and to love them in a different way, a kinder way.
Yeah.
Yes, and those are great, touches, hugs, acts of service, leaving notes. If words don't work, but I think even if your words aren't understood, it is the way you're saying it and the energy you're bringing to it. And it's just like with anything, you can tell if someone close to you is friendly and loving.
Eye contact.
Body that energy that you're emitting, right? I really, and when I think when all the other things go down, I can tell my mom it's like I see her body language shift instantly, whether I'm being domineering and authoritative, right? Let's go.
Oh, here she is again.
Hurry up. Which brings her to shutdown, right? Like, so yeah, all these tiny things, and the music offering familiar music that's comfortable. These are love languages. This goes beyond our ability to verbally interact.
Mm-hmm. I think it's in the air. You know, they say love is in the air. So I'm thinking that in a care partnering care pair, that there is a feeling when someone enters the room. If they're in a hurry, you don't definitely know that. I mean, it's kind of like having wind around you, blowing you in.
Mhm.
And I think that they pick maybe sensory things like that become far more important when you're someone living with, because as the other things go away, then what you're left with are bare bones. And maybe it's emotion that is bare bones. You probably know more about that than I.
Yeah. Well, emotions and feelings are preserved when other things go away. And so it is the thing to keep in mind that the underlying feelings are what's driving whatever behavior you're seeing. So if it's a repetitive verbalization, they're saying the same thing over and over, is that because they're anxious? Is it because they're sad? Are they bored? And so understanding that behavior is trying to communicate some underlying feeling, and then that's what you attend to or try to address,
Right.
not so much what they're saying or what they're doing. And I do think, using music is important because music and rhythm are also preserved. So you can play a song and make sure it's like from long ago because they're not going to recognize Britney Spears most likely. Like I'm not even sure I would. Um, but love songs from a long time ago, they can sing the lyrics to that, taking them to a museum, to look at art, and even sharing stories, but to realize too, sometimes the stories that they used to know, like they may not recognize themselves in the story anymore. And then, not getting into an argument with with them about it. To be like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's the story.
That is the news story.
Yeah.
Right. We're
Yeah. Okay, I have a question for you. I hear off and on, well, she was such a kind lady before, but she's just turned into this angry person. Is there changes that drastic that actually happen, something that clicks in a person's mind, that it is never a way that they've acted before? And because I also hear on the other side, oh, they've always been angry.
I think that people, the farther along they get in the disease, they actually tend to revert to being more kind.
Mhm.
Now, that also depends on who they're around and
Right.
what the situation is. But a lot of times, we would have a very happy-go-lucky person, and then family comes in and they put a different set of demands on that person that causes them stress, and then they react in kind of this fight, flight, or fright mode. Fight being anger. So I think that as caregivers and care partners, if we don't understand that this person has changed and they are different, we can actually inadvertently cause some of this anger. And like Kat said, I've got this agenda. We've got all these things we need to do today. And when you shove that in somebody's face, I mean, it makes you take a step back. And so what we have to do as caregivers is take this agenda and hide it and say, these are the things we would like to get done today. And then if they don't get done in that day, that we have to be okay with it because we're not working with a rational person. It's kind of like trying to get a toddler to do something. There are some boundaries we can put on it as parents because that's a little bit different dynamic. But when you have an adult that you're trying to get to do something, we just have to be more creative. And how do we try to get this person to do that? And again, we may not be the right person to do it. Like if it's trying to get that person to take a shower,
Right.
they may not do that.
Yeah,
But there
especially
might be other resources that we can utilize to say, and to back off to say maybe getting a shower every day isn't important. Let's go for once a week. And then if we can't get them to do that once a week, maybe there's something else like a PACE program or an adult daycare where they can take that piece off of us. And so I'm not getting into a fight with my person every time. But we also need to make sure they're not in pain, that they're not hot or cold or hungry or tired, because all those things can drive bad behaviors from that person.
Percent. And to take it sort of deeper in this like talk art love, it is from trying these things and learning, and actually sometimes for me just watching how slow my mom goes when I gotta go like 3,000 miles an hour at the same time, and learning to be more carefree like she is. Why I should just stop. I love to watch her chew her food. She takes the longest time to eat one piece of toast. Well, and maybe I need to learn from her, right? This is where the reciprocity and the partnership come in. I'm learning from her to just slow down. Will you just enjoy your food? Right? It's just sort of fundamental, getting back that there's reciprocity in this process, that there is something for me to learn while I'm trying to be in charge, right? To just, hey, gosh, my mom really has a nice approach to eating. My mom has a nice approach to taking care of her, her little routine, right? Very slowly. Maybe I need more.
Right. And one of the things that makes me think of is that our perspective, we have control over how we see things if we take the time to be aware of it. Like, for example, the biggest shift I think I had, like as a young mom, was, and wife, was getting mad that I was the only one that ever did the laundry. And so every time I did the laundry, I got mad about it. I was like, I'm the only one doing the laundry, blah, 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 blah. And then I decided one day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to be thankful that I have the physical ability to do the laundry. I am thankful that I have these children who make their clothes dirty and do the laundry, and it was just that little shift of practicing gratitude instead of letting it make me mad. And I think that's true with anything that we're doing in life. You could be mad that it's taking her so long to eat the toast, or you could be like, you know what? I'm thankful she could eat the toast, and she can
Yeah.
sit there, and that's a finger food. She can eat it on her own, and
Eyes
she can
closed,
savor it.
savor
And
every bite, and I'm like, this is such mindfulness
Yeah.
she's practicing right now.
right,
Yeah. And she's at the end of life. It's like she's savoring every
Yeah.
morsel.
yeah,
Like,
and you don't have to sit there for all of it. You can sit there for some of it and come back and visit. Like, you can get up and do some things. And it's like my mom, I would tell her, she's like, your grandmother just repeats the same thing and the same stories. And I'm like, well, you can still wash the dishes while she's saying the same thing, and it's not like she's asking you to be part of the conversation, because she's just talking. So all you have to do every now and then is go, uh-huh, uh-huh.
oh, that's
and
great.
and for my mom, that was a big shift in her thinking. I was like, you can still act like, you know you can still listen to what she's saying, but you don't have to let it drive you crazy. If she's happy and she's just telling you the same story, and she's sitting there and she's not actually demanding that you sit in front of her and listen,
Mhm.
just do some other stuff in that general area while she's talking, and be okay with it.
Yeah. Give it a, nice. Oh, I didn't know that. I find it shifts it like, oh, when you just pop in with a little bit of, oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And then I think Tom has a great way to end this particular segment. It says, the days that I keep my gratitude higher than my expectations, I have really good days, by Ray
Oh,
Bradbury.
Tom.
Yeah, that's a great thing. We like that.
That's perfect.
Yes.
But I thank you, ladies, for being with me today. So if people wanted to learn more about the great work that you guys are doing, what is the best way that they can connect with you?
Oh, well, start out on our website, dangledot.com, and we have you can sign up for our newsletter. And also we have a Linktree link with all our links to all our social media, including YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. We do little fun vignettes of things to kind of use play in our care pairing examples, and how color, music,
We
activities
laugh at ourselves.
can stir up the neurochemistry of a
Yes.
little bit more playfulness and joy along the journey, and share how someone can live well for 12 years, someone can caregive their lifetime and still feel that sense of purpose and
Love and kindness.
yeah.
Well,
So we just out there sharing that, and you all can help us girls with the algorithms by going and taking a look to help her get our message out there.
we appreciate it. And we appreciate our time with you
Melissa.
always.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you ladies being here with me. And happy early Valentine's Day. Happy early birthday to you. And I really appreciate y'all being with me. And I can't wait until we do the next one.
I know,
Okay.
it's so fun.
Thanks to Tom for joining us as well.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you'd like to be a part of my community and continue to learn more about aging, age-friendly initiatives, or Alzheimer's disease, don't forget to drop by my website at MelissaBPhD.com to grab your free podcast insider guide. You can also join the podcast private community on Facebook, and all podcast insiders are invited by email for exclusive live events. So I hope you'll stop by to grab your free guide, and then keep an eye on your inbox weekly for these special insider-only invitations. If you found value in this episode, please hit the like button and share it with someone else that could find it helpful. Hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you're alerted to the next episode when it comes out. And until next time, be well.